For most of us who use them on a daily basis, computer monitors designed for work and office are certainly not particularly exciting or inspiring. Still, they are a very important part of our work experience and come in a surprising variety in terms of features, capabilities, and extras. Instead of just being something that only displays an image, these models are often enriched with functions that address a specific problem or need and make life and daily work easier for users they are intended for. As times change, especially after the pandemic when working from home has become increasingly common, devices follow new needs, adapt, and try to offer something more modern, better, and more practical. We put one of those models to the test, and it is the Dell P2424HEB, a very peculiar monitor with many interesting functions. At its core, this is a relatively standard office monitor with a 24-inch screen, Full HD resolution, and a refresh rate of 60 Hz, but everything except the panel is actually not at all standard, and it is very interesting to see what Dell has implemented to make this model more functional and practical. We'll get to that in a minute. First of all, in terms of design, this model somewhat resembles the recently tested U2724DE, with which it shares certain visual elements. This is mainly reflected in the stand because it is the same silver-gray variant with the appearance of sandblasted aluminum, although it is plastic with an internal metal structure. The base of the stand is of moderate size and does not take up too much space on the desk, while the rest has a relatively thin profile with a square-like cross-section with rounded edges. The stability of the base is very good, although due to the weight of the panel and the thin profile of the stand, the panel itself will tend to wobble if your desk is not completely stable. As for the desired movement, the stand allows you to swivel the panel left and right by 45 degrees, tilt it by 5 degrees down and 21 up, adjust the height in a 15 cm range, as well as pivot the panel by 90 degrees in both directions. Viewed from the back, the panel has a similar design as on the U2724DE, only with a black surface, with the solo standout feature being a metallic grey Dell logo. Viewed from the side, the panel profile is similar to that of the aforementioned model, moderately thin, so there's enough room for ventilation slits that span the entire perimeter of the panel. The front of the panel is probably the most interesting, as it looks quite unconventional. The left and right bezels are very thin, with a minimal margin of only a few millimeters on the sides and the top, which is completely absent on the bottom side. At the top, you'll notice an interestingly placed sound system that looks like a soundbar. It's fairly wide, covered in fabric, and gives the monitor a very unusual look. Right in the middle of it is a camera, which we will talk about in more detail later, with a mechanical shutter that can cover the sensor by turning the outer ring, if you are someone who does not have too much confidence in software cybersecurity. The bottom of the panel's frame is slightly rounded, made of smooth black plastic, and on it, on the left side, there are several sensor buttons for volume control, microphone activation, launching Microsoft Teams, and accepting calls. You can probably already see for what purpose this monitor was mainly aimed for, and Dell officially classifies it as a video conferencing monitor. In addition to the sensor buttons, behind the lower right edge of the panel you will find the power button, as well as a mini joystick for menu control, which is a welcome change compared to the individual buttons usually found on previous Dell monitors. Therefore, moving through the menu is easy and intuitive, as is the menu itself, which is simple and well organized, with items divided into categories in the first column, with one additional submenu, and parameters in the third column. Pressing the joystick button will take you to the quick menu first, which gives you access to most common tasks, but which you can also personalize and adapt the shortcuts to your needs. This is possible both in the menu itself and in the Dell Display Manager software, where you can change all the available image parameters, select the source, or arrange the windows on the screen in a predefined layout. Most of the connectors are located in the usual spot at the bottom of the back of the panel, where you will find one HDMI, one DisplayPort 1.2, and one USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-C port with alt-mode display support, which can also charge external devices such as phones or laptops with up to 90 watts of power. There's even a DisplayPort output, so you can daisy-chain monitors via MST or multi-transport stream. The mentioned Type-C port, just like one USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type-B port, is also used for connection to a computer in order to connect the camera and sensor buttons to it or enable monitor control through the Dell Display Manager software. You can also connect these two ports to two different computers and use the KVM switch function to share the camera ports and other functions between them with automatic display source switching that you can configure as desired. In addition to this, there is also a LAN port with MAC address pass-through support and two USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A ports for connecting peripherals, plus a 3.5mm combo connector for headphones and microphone and one USB 3.2 Gen 1 Type A port and Type C port that are placed separately under the lower left edge of the panel for easy access. The Dell P2424HEB definitely offers a lot of flexibility for those who work with two computers or, for example, use one computer and one mobile device and want easy access to both through one set of peripherals and one monitor with shared internet connection, files, etc. What probably attracts the most attention with this monitor is certainly the large camera element at the top that is impossible not to notice. The decision to include it makes this model very distinct, but in a modern business environment where a camera is becoming necessary, it actually makes sense. From video conferencing to authentication and even tracking working hours, for some users the camera is practically necessary on a daily basis, and until Microsoft enables the use of the phone as a camera for Windows, which was talked about recently, such an all-in-one solution may be the right thing. If you're wondering why you shouldn't just take an ordinary monitor and buy a webcam, the answer is that in this case Dell has implemented some additional features beyond a simple webcam which can be of practical use. The camera system on this model actually consists of two sensors, one standard RGB and one infrared, which enables the camera to perform better in low light conditions but also enables you to use it for authentication in Windows via the Windows Hello function. So in business environments, it is possible to simply sit down at the computer, perhaps any computer in the office, and be automatically logged into your account. Or to automatically activate the computer when you sit down at your desk and get automatically logged out when you leave via the Dell Express sign-in function. Another great thing is the implementation of AI framing, so the camera can automatically control zoom and move the frame so that you are always in the middle of it, even if you're moving during the call. It's possible to adjust the frame width and tracking speed, and the transitions are very smooth, so we can say that this works quite well. The only thing missing is the option to change or blur the background for those working from home, so you'll have to rely on the capabilities of the particular software you're using. Speaking of software, the monitor is Microsoft Teams and Zoom certified, and we have already mentioned additional buttons that will make it easier for you to access Teams or answer calls. As for the camera, it comes with a Sony Starvis sensor and implements noise reduction, both standard spatial 2D and temporal 3D, with a time component. It is a 4-megapixel camera that supports a resolution of up to 2K and a frame rate of up to 30 images per second. The image quality that this camera provides in terms of sharpness does not significantly differ from an average camera on a laptop, although we kind of expected it to, but we noticed that it performs better in modest ambient light conditions and that the aforementioned noise reduction does its job pretty well. In any case, it is adequate for video calls in usual working from home or average office scenarios. HDR is also supported on the camera, not on the monitor itself, but to be honest, we didn't notice any particular difference with its activation. Besides the image, video calls also require sound, and in this case the Dell P2424HEB is equipped with two microphones and an algorithm for noise and echo reduction so that your colleagues and your business partners can hear you better. In order for you to hear them, there is the aforementioned sound system along the top edge of the monitor with 2x5 watts of power, which is just loud enough to follow a conversation within an average room or office, even if you are not sitting at the computer. Sound quality isn't mind-blowing, but it's better than average for computer monitors. The emphasis is on clarity and the high-mid part of the spectrum, while low frequencies extend up to around 70 Hz, although they drop quickly below 120 Hz. Since this is a monitor, it's time to take a look at the panel and display quality because it's something you'll have the most contact with while you work. We have already mentioned that this is a 24-inch panel with a Full HD resolution and 60 Hz refresh rate, so very basic specifications in terms of display. Although we prefer QHD for work because of the larger workspace, at 24 inches and for the purpose of this model, 1080p can be adequate and offers decent image sharpness. Of course, this will depend on the specific user and needs, so tell us in the comments which combination of resolution and size is optimal in your opinion. The panel itself is IPS type, 8-bit, and according to our measurements is able to display about 78% of the DCI-P3 spectrum. As for the factory color calibration, it is very good, and in 3 of the 5 predefined modes gets below the limit of 3, which is considered imperceptible to the average eye. The best accuracy is in the default standard mode, besides which you will also have cool, warm, game, movie and custom at your disposal. As expected for IPS, the viewing angles are very good, and the backlight uniformity is quite decent, with no visible dirty screen effect and with minimally darker edges around the screen. The maximum measured brightness was 245.8 nits, while the black level in most modes is at the level of 0.15 nits, which is relatively standard for IPS. The static contrast measured at 1226:1 is even very good for this type of panel, and if we exclude the IPS black we saw on the Dell U2724DE, this is actually quite a high figure for a standard IPS. All in all, the Dell P2424HEB is a monitor that may be aimed at a specific audience, but has a lot to offer, from a very solid image quality and display accuracy and excellent contrast despite the modest resolution, to rich KVM capabilities, AI-enhanced camera, and other features that are there to make video conferencing easier, but can also come in handy in other types of business and office use. The price of this model is around $470 US. That would be all for this review, but as usual we would like to hear your thoughts on this monitor, so let us know in the comments below. We hope you enjoyed this video enough to leave a like, and maybe consider subscribing to our channel for more interesting tech content. You were watching Bench House, my name is Ivan, and I'll see you next time.